Hello there. Come settle in. Get comfortable. Tonight we have a story for you, a true story, one that happened a very long time ago, in a city by the sea. It's a strange story, almost unbelievable, but every word of it is real. This is the story of the day that molasses became a flood. Molasses, that thick, sweet syrup, the kind that moves so slowly you barely notice it pouring. On January 15th, 1919, in Boston, Massachusetts, 2 million gallons of it broke free from a massive tank. And what happened next changed everything. So close your eyes if you'd like, listen, and let me take you back to a winter day more than 100 years ago. Picture Boston, 1919. The war, the Great War, had just ended. The world was tired, trying to heal. In a neighborhood called the North End, right by the harbor, people lived their lives. Families, workers, children playing in narrow streets. And rising above it all stood a tank, a very large tank, 50 feet tall, 90 feet across, painted dark brown like the molasses it held inside. It belonged to a company called the United States Industrial Alcohol Company. They made alcohol for various purposes. Some became rum, some went into explosives for the war effort. The tank had been built quickly, too quickly. In 1915, it went up in just 2 months. The builders rushed. The company wanted it ready. But from the very beginning, the tank leaked. People who lived nearby noticed. Sweet-smelling drips, sticky spots on the ground. Children would collect the molasses in jars and buckets. The workers heard sounds, groaning, the metal complaining under the weight. They painted over the leaks, tried to hide them, and life continued. Days passed, weeks, months, years. The tank stood there, holding its millions of gallons, creaking softly. And then came January 1919. The weather had been cold, very cold, but then it warmed, unusually warm for winter. The molasses inside the tank began to change. Warm molasses moves differently. It flows, it shifts, and inside that tank, something else was happening. The molasses was fermenting, creating gas, pressure, building and building, with nowhere to go. It was only a matter of time. January 15th, lunchtime, 12:30. It was a Wednesday, an ordinary day. And then the tank gave way. The metal tore apart, the seams split wide open, and the molasses poured out. 2 million gallons. It formed a wave, 15 feet high, moving at 35 miles per hour. Molasses, thick, warm molasses, moving like a wall of liquid earth. The wave moved through the streets. It crushed a firehouse. Buildings collapsed. The wave bent the support beams of the elevated railway. Metal, twisted like paper. Horses pulling wagons got caught, trapped, unable to move. And people, 21 people died that day. Some were crushed by debris, by collapsing buildings, by pieces of the tank itself. Others drowned, in molasses, unable to swim, unable to breathe. 150 more were injured. The molasses spread across 2 city blocks, knee-deep in places, thick and sticky and endless. Rescue workers arrived. They tried to help, tried to pull people free, but the molasses held on. Some people were found quickly. Others took hours, days. The firefighters tried washing it away with water. But molasses and water don't mix well. Someone suggested salt water from the harbor. They pumped it in. The salt helped, a little, but it still took weeks to clean. Weeks. Workers trudged through it. Every step was effort, and they tracked it everywhere, into buildings, onto trains. Everything was sticky, door handles, telephone poles, park benches. For months, everything in Boston was sticky, and the smell. The entire North End smelled sweet, like burnt sugar. For years, decades even, People said that on hot summer days you could still smell it, the ghost of molasses lingering in the air. After the flood came the questions: who was responsible? Why did this happen? The company tried to blame anarchists, revolutionaries, troublemakers, but investigators found nothing: no bomb, no explosion. What they found instead was neglect. The tank had been poorly built. The metal was too thin, the rivets spaced too far apart. It had never been tested. Not once. The molasses had been fermenting, creating carbon dioxide, pressure building inside, and the tank had no way to release that pressure. Add the warm weather, and it was inevitable. The lawsuits began, 119 of them. The case went on for 3 years, and finally, in 1925, the court decided the company was at fault completely. They paid $628,000, about 11 million in today's money. It couldn't bring anyone back, couldn't undo what had happened, but it set a precedent. Companies were now responsible for the safety of their structures. Engineers had to test their designs. Because of molasses, the world became a little bit safer. The neighborhood rebuilt, slowly, where the tank had stood, eventually became a park, Langone Park. There's a small plaque there now, remembering what happened. Life moved on, as it always does. But the people of the North End, they never forgot. Every January 15th, some of them pause, remember, and visitors sometimes say, on the warmest days of summer, if you walk through the North End streets, you can still smell something sweet in the air. Maybe it's just the bakeries, or maybe it's memory itself. And so, that's the story. The Great Molasses Flood, January 15th, 1919, a day when something ordinary became extraordinary and tragic. 21 people lost their lives, 150 were hurt, a neighborhood was destroyed and rebuilt, and the world learned something important. Sometimes the most unlikely things can be dangerous. Sometimes cutting corners catches up with you, and sometimes history remembers the strangest moments. If you're ever in Boston, walk through the North End, visit Langone Park, see the plaque, remember, and on a warm summer evening, breathe in, see if you smell something sweet. It might just be the bakeries, but it might be something more. History has a long memory, and some stories never quite wash away. Thank you for listening tonight. If you enjoyed this story, there are more, many more. History is full of strange moments, quiet tragedies, unexpected lessons. Subscribe if you'd like more stories like this, told softly, told carefully, for when you need something to listen to as you drift off. Sleep well, remember the past, and we'll see you in the next story. Good night.